Hello, and welcome to More Conversations. Today I'm speaking with Nancy Layne, immediate past president and current board of director. Welcome, Nancy.
Hi, welcome.
Today I want to talk about some do's and don'ts in the industry, and you oversee quite a few agents as broker of record for Windermere. So can you tell me some do's and don'ts in a transaction, in the industry, things that you're seeing right now happening within your office or outside of your office?
Well, there's kind of a lot. We've just changed to the new RPA. So we went from 10 to 16 pages. So that change in and of itself has been a large one. And so a lot of our agents they're not missing things, but there's things about the new contract that are different. And so there's a lot of attention that's being paid to kind of the smaller details and some of the things we're just finding out as we move through that process that really aren't necessarily what we were expecting or that might be slightly different than in the past contract. In fact, we just had a meeting yesterday with Gov Hutchinson, who's a CAR attorney. He's actually the top CAR attorney. And it was really wonderful to have his perspective because a lot of what I do as a CAR director is bring back that information to my office. And that was part of the wonderful thing about that is to have that sort of directly firsthand. But to our agents, a lot of what they're seeing is maybe other agents not necessarily following the exact intent maybe of the contract. So for example, if there is a difference in the appraisal and how much that buyer is willing to pay as the gap between those two, that's not necessarily as easily understood. So what I've told my agents and what I would recommend to any agent out there is to be extremely clear. A lot of times we do what we call agent speak or agent law, where agents think they're understood and so they write something that isn't necessarily as clear maybe 6 months later when you're trying to explain it. So I always try to emphasize that they specifically state what it is that they want to have clarified. That goes for that. That also goes for things that are going to be left with the property. For example, an agent wants to clarify that their buyer wants the refrigerators, and they don't say the refrigerator in the kitchen, the refrigerator in the garage, the wine refrigerator in the outdoor cooking area, etc. You have to be very specific. We've actually had people come back and argue that a plastic plant was or was not personal property. So it seems silly at the time, but do it anyway.
Yeah. So the details matter.
Details matter and specifics matter as well. Again, the clarity is what's most important and having everybody understand exactly what it is that you're trying to convey. So that's terribly important. And also, I think really a lot of what we're in now with this crazy market that we're in that has such timelines and 20, 30 offers on properties, et cetera, people kind of forget that these are people that they're dealing with. And so just to sort of the golden rule back again, treat others the way you want to be treated. As a listing agent and you've got those 30 offers, I understand it's really kind of a pain to answer all of those people. But if you were one of those people, you'd want that answer and you'd want to be able to relay that to your client. So again, I'm going to emphasize to my agents and to everybody that we talk to make sure that you really kind of keep that in mind and remember, give a little grace. It's a little crazy right now.
So communication is extremely important.
Very important.
And do you feel that different generations communicate differently? Where there are some that would prefer an email, some that would prefer a text, or some would really like you to pick up the phone and call?
Well, that's exactly the point. And that to the communications section, again, ask that in the very beginning. When you're speaking with your clients, how would you prefer that I, converse with you? Do you want me to call? Do you want me to text? So I have, for example, my son who is a younger generation, and his best friend is selling his condo and buying a house. So I've been helping them. And everything is text, everything back and forth, even, pictures, everything they want is going to be done by text. I have an older client who, my next door neighbor, as a matter of fact, is 96 years old. She has no idea how even to use text. In fact, most of the time I just walk next door and talk to her. But even still, you have to understand that from the very beginning and cater to what that client specifically responds to.
What do you suggest to agents that are new in the real estate industry and for experienced agents that may have taken a break from the industry but are getting back in the business?
That's always a good one. It's one of the questions we get asked all the time. Newer agents that come in, how do I start my business? What do I do? And I think a lot of times there are a lot of coaching systems out there, and I think that those are extremely helpful. You do need a system. I think that's going to help you to get, just in general, using a system is going to help you get to where you want to go in terms of, knowing your timelines, maybe time blocking, whatever works for you. And there's a number of different choices out there. So choose that as your base. But then above that, I always tell my agents, be yourself, but on steroids. So whoever you are, whatever you like to do, you're going to bring people into you that think the same way and believe the same things. So showcase that. Be that person. If you are very involved in your church, if you're very involved with your kids' sports, if you love the arts, if you repair cars, do that bigger and more boisterously so that you bring people into you that think that same way. Because our business is based on a personal relationship. And people work with people that they know, like, and trust. So be that person. I think people get in trouble when they try to be something they're not, and they pretend to be something they're not. You've all heard that fake it till you make it. And I have a little bit of a different spin on that. When I first started in the industry, one of the best pieces of advice that I got, I loved it, was begin as you wish to go on. And this was an older gentleman, again, somebody definitely on phones, not on text. But he was right. If you want to be successful in the future because you're going to always do, X, Y, and Z and pay attention to those things, then start doing that now. Don't fake that you're going to do those things. Do those things. So I kind of get that the intent behind the fake it till you make it, but it's more of a be that person that you want to become. Don't pretend to be that person that you want to become.
And how do you feel about mentors?
I love the mentor industry. I think it needs to be maybe expanded a little bit in our real estate industry. A lot of people will tell you that what they studied in real estate in those books doesn't necessarily translate to the field. We have all had that that same feeling, I think. Why do I need to know how many square feet a hectare is and stuff like that? But part of the business of real estate is the personality of real estate and how to deal with people and to work ethically, to understand the contract. I always believe that knowledge is power specific to the contract in this industry. If you understand how that contract is written and what those clauses mean, and your opponent or the person on the other side of the table does not, you have an advantage. And so I'm going to take every advantage I can get in real estate and do it properly. That's part of the reason I got involved in professional standards and why I've been on the board and work as hard as I do to stay on top of these things, is not only for that knowledge, but also the ethical aspect of that you want to make sure that what you're doing is in the best interest of your client and the transaction and the industry. I don't want to go out there and represent agents and, not have a good vision, or one of my clients to come back to me and said, you did me wrong, or that was unethical what you did. So that has always guided me. But the knowledge part of that is the biggest section of that. And I think that mentors can go a long way to helping newer agents understand kind of the intricacies of the industry and how you do it well and how you do it properly.
What would you tell an agent that has been out of the business, say pre-pandemic? So they've been out of the business 5 years and now they're coming back. What sorts of things do they need to know that maybe have changed?
Well, that's exactly it. Everything's changed. Kind of throw everything out and start fresh. A lot of agents who've been in the industry a long time tend to think they know everything and they don't need to learn more things, that they've got it, they've done it this way, it's always going to be the same. It's not. It's changed. The world has changed. Our industry has changed. So come in with an open mind and take advantage of the fact that things have changed and you do have experience, but learn from what this pandemic really has taught us a lot about how people do business and how people live. Before the pandemic, the biggest trend was the small house, tiny houses. And the pandemic taught us that we really don't want to live in 300 square feet with 4 other people in it. That's just a little nuts. And that's a funny version of it. But basically, a lot of the lessons of the last couple of years, I think, are going to be with us for a while. And I think that that's something worth knowing and understanding.
Do you see any things you think will trend in the future?
Well, they already are trending, which is the work from home and the home office and the slightly larger spaces. And, somebody who's working, my daughter, for example, is moving back from Washington State, and she's going to work remotely for a company up there. There's a lot of that going on. People are working from different places from all over the country, and it isn't necessarily tied to the physical location of the job. So there's a lot of that in the mix. And I think that there's, California still has a very low inventory, and that's been coming for 20, 30 years. And really, California hasn't built enough housing for that time. So that's not changing. We're not suddenly going to have enough housing for everybody who lives here. So the ability to negotiate and work for the benefit of your client, both a buyer and a seller, is really important. And navigating those two things in this market, when this seller wants the best price they can possibly get, and I totally understand it and I'm on board with that. But then you also have this buyer who's been trying for 15 houses to get one, and he hasn't yet. So you really have to be able to negotiate those two things. And the thing that has worked a lot with our agents is being the best agent possible on that first impression, on that first on that first offer that you write. Make it clean, make sure it's what they want, don't misspell their names, make sure everything's filled out, make sure that all of the terms are going to work for that seller, and be the one that the other agent wants to work with. So, again, it's kind of that golden rule again, be the person that you want on the other side of your transaction, and that will hold you in good stead.
Where do you think technology comes in place? Because we're having virtual open houses, the media, we're doing this, we're reaching out to our members, virtually.
Yeah, I think that's it's a mixed bag of pieces that we're going to keep pieces of. So I think some of this will stay. I don't know that people are ever going to 100% tour houses virtually, but I will say that we have had completely virtual sales. People from out of the area, out of state, out of the country who have purchased homes. People, for example, who have been overseas and then retransferred back and have to buy a house before they get here, and it has been done completely virtually. And I think that will still be a piece. It'll be a small piece, but I think it'll still be a piece. I don't think it'll be the biggest one. But certainly a lot of those, we've had virtual tours already because we've already had the walkthroughs, and we've had the tour on the websites and stuff. But I really think that touch, taste, feel, and just absorb the feeling of a house in person is so important. A lot of photos, for example, backyards always look like they're 6 acres, and you get there and it's, this big. So there's just a lot of translation that needs to happen. So I do believe that's always going to be a part of what we do. But certainly the communication level, meetings, Zoom, and I've done a lot of Zoom. You get a little burned out on Zoom, but it's extremely helpful, especially with us. We have 12 offices. So if I'm going to have a full company meeting, it's so much easier to have a Zoom meeting. And, our Desert office and our Del Mar office can all be in the room with me. So it's that part of it I think is going to stay. I don't know that we're going to ever completely go completely virtual, just because the nature of this business isn't that. But I do believe that there's a chunk of it that will definitely stay.
And what would you tell a new agent who thinks they're going to come in, they're going to sell 25 houses their first year, easy peasy, and how do you give them a reality check?
Well, they're disabused of that idea within the first week or two when they've, done a couple of open houses and chased their tail for, somebody's crazy idea of what they want. But I really think time is just all that can cure them of that. People, I've been in this industry since the beginning of time, and anybody who's lasted in this industry for any length of time will tell you that too, that, you learn quickly how to how to read people, how to understand what they want, how to give them the details that they wanted. If somebody comes into you and they say, I want, a 2-bedroom, 3-bath, I don't want to spend over 3, and you show them a $500,000 4-bedroom home, you're not gonna last. You got to listen. You got to understand what they want. There's a lot of unspoken stuff. The buyers are liars story isn't that they're actually lying, but they don't know what they want, that kind of thing. And that's stuff that just comes with time. And that's where, again, the mentors can help with that, because that's part of this process, is you have to be able to read people and the situations and what they want.
Well, I can't thank you enough for spending time with me today. That was fantastic, and I really appreciate you.
Anytime.